Imagine. You wake inside the stone belly of Rome. Not the shining marble Rome of temples and triumphs, but its darker twin, the Rome of blood, sweat, and silence before the roar. The air here is thick with a stink that clings to your throat, sweat gone sour, damp straw, rusting iron, the copper tang of old blood dried into the cracks of stone. You can taste it before you can even open your eyes. Chains rattle in the dark. Somewhere nearby, someone coughs, harsh and broken, a sound that feels like it belongs to a man twice his age. A whip cracks. Not once, but twice, sharp, slicing, a reminder that time here is measured in obedience. Welcome to the world of the gladiators. Forget the painted legends. Forget Hollywood's bronzed heroes striding into the arena with perfect armor and defiant speeches. Forget the polished tales of noble warriors who fought for glory, for honor, for the thrill of combat. The truth is colder, harsher. Gladiators were symbols of Rome's cruelty as much as its power. Their lives were not their own. Their bodies were bought and sold, their days measured in training and torment, their futures dangling always at the edge of a blade. And yet, they were also icons, walking contradictions. At once despised as slaves and adored as living legends. At once expendable and immortalized in art, graffiti, whispers, and dreams. Rome worshipped them, feared them, consumed them. Even emperors, men who ruled continents, bent their own image toward the myth of the gladiator. Because the gladiator embodied something essential to Rome itself: control, spectacle, and the illusion that death could be choreographed. But let's not stay at a distance. Let's not look at them as dusty figures from old mosaics. Instead, walk with me into the heat, the stench, the iron of their world. You rise slowly from a straw mat that scratches your skin through a ragged tunic. Your head throbs from yesterday's drills, when a wooden sword struck the side of your skull hard enough to leave the world ringing. Around you others stir, men you don't yet know, but whose fates are tied to yours. Some are scarred veterans with eyes like cold stones. Others are new like you, blinking in disbelief at the life they've woken into. Above, a narrow slit of sunlight slices the darkness, revealing the high walls that cage you. These are not walls meant to inspire. They are walls meant to remind you that escape is impossible. And outside these walls, Rome itself. A city of marble and mud, slaves and senators, emperors and beggars. A city built on contradiction. Rome prided itself on civilization, on laws, on order. And yet the same Rome filled its amphitheaters with slaughter as entertainment. Citizens cheered as men bled, as animals ripped flesh, as death became a dance. Do you hear it? Not now, not here in the silence of the training school, but faint, in the distance, an echo carried by your imagination, the roar of 100,000 voices in the Colosseum, the stamping of sandals, the pounding of drums. A sound so immense it drowns out thought. One day, you will stand at its center. One day, the cheers or jeers of strangers will decide your worth. But not today. Today, you're still in the shadows. Today, you're still a student of survival. Gladiators were not born. They were made. Forged like iron in the furnace of Rome's hunger for spectacle. Some were prisoners of war, dragged from conquered lands. Others were criminals, condemned to fight as punishment. Still others were slaves, sold to the ludus, the gladiator school, as property. And there were a rare few, who entered willingly, chasing money or fame, or the twisted promise of a crowd's adoration. But once you entered, the walls closed behind you. You belonged to the lanista, the master of the school. He was not your father, not your commander. He was your owner. His word was law. His whip, his guards, his punishments, these defined the limits of your life. Imagine being reduced to that. Not a person, but an investment. You are worth what you can bring in at the arena gate. Your value lies in your body's ability to endure, to bleed for the entertainment of others, and to keep bleeding until the crowd is satisfied. And yet, here's the paradox. Rome trained you, fed you, clothed you. Why? Because a dead gladiator too soon was a wasted investment. You had to be shaped, prepared, honed into something that could draw screams and wagers from the crowd. You weren't just a fighter. You were a performer. And the show demanded perfection. Step with me out of the dormitory now, into the courtyard of the Ludus. The sun beats down mercilessly on the sand. The air quivers with heat, but the clang of wood on wood cuts through it. Two men spar in the center, their weapons heavy, oversized, designed to punish the body into strength. Each strike lands with a dull, splintering thud. Sweat drips from their faces, their arms trembling with the effort of wielding weapons heavier than anything they will carry in the arena. It's training by exhaustion. Training by pain. On the edges of the yard, a trainer bellows commands. His voice is rough, his patience non-existent. When one fighter falters, the whip cracks against his back. Not enough to kill. Just enough to remind. Do you feel the sand under your feet? Do you smell it, dry, sharp, mixed with iron and sweat? Training grounds like this existed across the empire, each a little world of its own, half prison, half barracks, half theater. Yes, three halves. Because nothing in this life fit neatly into order. It was always too much of everything. Too much pain, too much discipline, too much spectacle. But let's step back for a moment. Before the sand, before the whip, before the roar. Gladiators didn't exist in a vacuum. They were part of something larger, a machine of power. Rome's emperors and politicians used them as tools. Games were a release valve, a way to distract the masses, to feed them bread and spectacle so they wouldn't notice the weight of taxes or corruption. The people might grumble about the Senate, but give them a day at the amphitheater, and their voices turned to cheers. And the gladiators were the centerpiece of that bargain. They were the sacrifice, the living currency that kept Rome's social order intact. Think of it, a society so vast, so powerful, that it could afford to spend human lives as entertainment. Rome conquered nations, enslaved populations, and then turned their suffering into sport. And yet, even in this brutality, there was admiration. The same crowd that jeered at your failures would weep at your courage. The same people who watched you fight like an animal would scratch your name onto a wall, praising you like a god. That was the strange, twisted honor of being a gladiator. You were despised, yet adored. Disposable, yet unforgettable. As the day burns on, you can almost feel the weight of time itself pressing down. Hours marked not by clocks, but by drills, by shouted orders, by the rhythm of pain and endurance. The clang of wooden swords. The sting of sweat in your eyes. The heat radiating off stone walls that keep you in and the world out. This is the world you've entered. A world where survival is victory enough. A world where the boundary between man and beast blurs, where your body is no longer yours but Rome's. And this, friend, is only the beginning. Because soon we'll walk deeper. Into the barracks. Into the kitchens. Into the punishments and drills that carved men into weapons. We'll see how each dawn began, how each night ended, how food, fear, and fire shaped the body into something Rome could parade in the arena. But for now, remember this, the world of gladiators was never about glory. It was about control. About Rome reminding itself that it could command life and death, and make the people cheer while it did so. And you, standing in this courtyard, sweat dripping, muscles burning, are part of that machinery now. Tomorrow, the drills begin again. Tomorrow, you'll eat the food designed not to delight but to fuel. Tomorrow, the walls will still be there, unyielding. And always, somewhere in the distance, the roar of the crowd waits, like thunder before a storm. The sun is higher now, burning white against the walls. The courtyard shimmers with heat, the sound of practice echoing off stone like a drumbeat. You stand there, chest rising and falling, and the thought comes unbidden, where exactly am I? You are in the Ludus. The word sounds almost harmless, doesn't it? It rolls off the tongue like something scholarly, almost gentle. But the truth of the Ludus is far from gentle. Half prison, half training ground, part barracks, part graveyard, it is a world unto itself, a place where freedom ends and the body becomes clay to be shaped, hardened, punished, displayed. You glance up. The walls are high, higher than you imagined, built of thick stone and timber. They are not decorated, not adorned. Their only purpose is to keep you inside. The gates are iron, locked, always watched. On the other side are guards, armed, alert, loyal not to you but to the lanista, the master. Their spears are not for Rome's enemies. They are for you, should you ever forget what you are. The Ludus is prison first, and school second. It is here that you are broken down, remade, and taught how to serve Rome not with words or service but with your flesh. Step with me a little further. The courtyard empties into long, narrow corridors, shadowed by the overhanging balconies where guards sometimes lean and watch. At one end is the refectory, where meals are served, at the other the cells, small rooms packed with straw mats, more kennel than chamber. The smell never leaves, sweat, damp straw, the acrid sting of old urine. At night the sound rises from these cells, coughing, groaning, sometimes crying, though few dare to let the guards hear it. And at the very heart of the Ludus, the training ground, the sand-strewn arena where bodies are tested until they fail. Look closer. Do you see the men here? Not all are the same. There are Gauls, tall and broad-shouldered, their hair cropped short by Roman blades. There are Thracians, wiry, sharp-eyed, their accents harsh against Latin commands. There are Italians too, prisoners, slaves, even the occasional free-born man who signed away his liberty for the chance at silver. Different tongues, different faces, but here all are the same, property of the lanista. The lanista himself. Let us not forget him. He does not look like a soldier. He does not need to. He is a businessman, first and last, but one whose business is measured in blood. He owns the gladiators. He decides who trains, who fights, who is punished. To him, you are not a man, you are an investment. He watches your movements with the eye of a merchant inspecting livestock. He calculates the coin you might bring, the odds you might draw, the bets you might stir in the crowd. If you die too soon, he loses money. If you live long enough to become a name, to be scratched into graffiti on a tavern wall, he gains it. Your worth is not in yourself, it is in how you can be displayed. And above him, invisible but always present, looms the editor, the man who sponsors the games, often a magistrate or even an emperor. For him, gladiators are tools of power, tokens to curry favor with the crowd. Bred in circuses, that was the bargain. And the Ludus, the place you now inhabit, is the factory where those circuses are manufactured. Step back into the courtyard with me, and feel it. The air is thick with commands barked in Latin. The clang of wood against wood rings out as pairs clash under the eyes of their trainers. Dust rises with each fall, mixing with sweat until it coats the skin. The trainers pace like wolves, whips at their sides, rods in their hands. One misstep earns a shout, another earns a lash. This is not training in the sense you know it. This is punishment until the body learns by pain what the mind cannot forget. Imagine holding a wooden sword so heavy it makes your arms burn after the first swing, knowing that one day it will be steel, and that steel could end you. Imagine carrying a shield so broad and thick that it feels like a door ripped from its hinges, your shoulder screaming as you try to hold it aloft under the weight of blows. Imagine running drills until your legs quiver, and then being ordered to run again. And above it all, the eyes of the guards, silent reminders that this is not optional. There is no rest. There is no refusal. There is only obedience, or pain. But the Ludus is not only sweat and sand. It is fear. At night, when the gates close and the torches gutter low, the silence is heavy with it. Men lie on straw mats, staring at the ceiling, wondering when their first match will come, wondering if they will live long enough to see another dawn. Some whisper prayers to gods old and new. Mars, Jupiter, Fortuna, Christ, anyone who might tilt the scale when the blade comes down. Others simply stare, their eyes hollow, already gone in spirit though their bodies still breathe. You hear chains sometimes, dragging across stone. Punishments carried out in the dark. A man beaten for insolence. Another left shackled until his legs give way. The Lanista rules through fear, and the school is built on it. And yet, curiously, fear is not the only thing. There is also a strange kind of pride. Men who once were nameless begin to learn roles. The Murmillo, the Secutor, the Retiarius, the Thracian, all these archetypes take shape here. You are given not only a weapon but an identity. The Romans loved order, even in their brutality. Each type of gladiator had its armor, its weapons, its style. The crowd did not want chaos, they wanted theater. So here, in the Ludus, you begin to transform. You learn how to fight not only to survive, but to perform. You are taught to turn your body toward the crowd, to exaggerate your movements, to die, if you must, in a way that satisfies. And the truth is, some men embraced it. For some, the Ludus became not just a prison but a strange stage. They learned to relish the roar, the wagers, the chants of their name. To be a gladiator was to live in a constant shadow of death. But it was also to be seen, in a world where so many slaves lived and died unnoticed. Step into the dining hall now, where food is served from large pots into wooden bowls. The meal is not luxurious, but it is hearty: barley porridge, beans, vegetables, sometimes dried fruit. Meat is rare, but not absent. You eat not to feast, but to build mass, to fuel the endless drills. The Romans called gladiators hordearii, barley men, for their diet was rich in grains. It made you heavier, slower perhaps, but able to endure. You chew the thick porridge, its taste bland, but filling. Around you, the men eat in silence or murmur in low voices. Guards watch even here. You feel the weight of their gaze as you lift each spoonful. No one lingers long. Food is fuel, nothing more. After, the men return to their cells, to sleep if they can. Some whisper, trading stories of past lives, of fields left behind in Gaul, of families in Thrace, of debts unpaid in Rome. Others stay silent, their eyes fixed on the wall, unwilling to share, unwilling to hope. Because here in the Ludus, hope is dangerous. Hope means you still believe in freedom. And freedom does not live within these walls. The days stretch, one into another. Training, eating, sleeping, hurting. Time blurs, measured only by the cracking of whips, the clang of weapons, the distant echo of drums from the city. Sometimes, from the courtyard, you hear faintly the roar of the Colosseum itself. It carries on the wind, that sound of thousands screaming as men fight and die. It reaches you like a ghost, a reminder of where your path leads. Some men shiver when they hear it. Others close their eyes, imagining their names shouted in that same roar. But for now you are not there. For now you are here in the Ludus, where men are turned into weapons, where every sunrise is another day of breaking, building, reshaping. And so, as night falls again, the torches flicker low, shadows stretch across the walls, and the sound of chains settles into silence. You lie on your straw mat, staring upward, the stink of sweat thick in your nose. This is the Gladiator School. Your new home. Your prison. Your crucible. Tomorrow, the gates will creak open again. Tomorrow, the sand will scrape beneath your feet, the whip will crack, the wood will splinter, and the training will go on. Because here, in the Ludus, there is no end but the arena. And we are only just beginning to see what life inside truly meant. The night in the Ludus is heavy, damp, and full of whispers. A cough rattles in the shadows, straw rustles as men shift in uneasy sleep, and somewhere down the corridor the faint clink of a chain marks a punishment still dragging on. You lie awake, staring into the dark, and you wonder, How did I come here? That question haunts every man within these walls. And each answer is different, though all lead to the same locked gate. Imagine it, the journey that brings a new recruit to the Ludus. You do not simply appear here. You are dragged, escorted, delivered like cargo. It begins outside. A cart rattling through Rome's streets, its wheels clattering over stone. You sit inside, your wrists bound, the rough hemp biting into your skin. The smell of the city presses in from all sides, garum sauce rotting in the heat, smoke from kitchens, the ever-present stench of waste and sweat. People look as you pass. Some sneer, others don't look at all, because to them you are no longer a man but a commodity, another slave to be bought and used. Perhaps you are a prisoner of war. Maybe you once stood tall in a Gallic army, spear in hand, shouting defiance at the legions, only to be crushed beneath Rome's discipline, stripped, and marched hundreds of miles in chains. Or perhaps you are a criminal, condemned for theft, rebellion, or simply offending the wrong Roman. The punishment? The arena. Or maybe you sold yourself here. Yes, it happened. A desperate citizen, drowning in debt, agreeing to the gladiator's oath, trading freedom for the hope of a purse heavy with silver. Whatever your path, the cart rolls the same way. The driver spits, flicks the reins, and the walls of the Ludus rise ahead, thick, gray, unforgiving. To a free man, they are anonymous stone. To you, they are the end of one life and the grim beginning of another. The gates open. You are led inside. The noise hits you first. The sharp crack of a whip. The dull thud of wooden swords colliding. The bark of Latin orders echoing off stone. You stumble as you are shoved forward, blinking at the glare of the courtyard. Men turn their heads to look. Gladiators. Their eyes weigh you, not as a man but as a measure of flesh. Will you last? Will you fall? And there, waiting, the lanista or his assistant. He looks you over with the same practiced eye he might use on a horse at market. He notes your height, your build, the scars that speak of past fights. He does not ask your name. Your name means little here. If the crowd remembers you, they may give you a new one, a nickname shouted from the stands. Until then, you are property. A slave brand is pressed to your skin, hot iron searing, leaving a mark that tells the world you belong to the Ludus. Some men scream, others bite their tongues, refusing to give the guards that satisfaction. The smell of burnt flesh lingers, sickly sweet in the courtyard air. That is your welcome. Not words. Not comfort. A mark, a chain, a reminder. You are marched through the corridors. The cells gape open, dark holes in the stone. You are pushed into one, straw crunching beneath your feet, the stink of sweat and mildew filling your nose. The door shuts. The lock clicks. And just like that, your old life is gone. Think of it. The fields you once walked. The family you once knew. The debts, the battles, the street where you were born. All of it vanishes the moment the gate closes. In here, the past is nothing. Only the present matters. And the present is survival. The first day for a recruit is confusion wrapped in fear. You do not know the routines yet, but you learn quickly, because mistakes are punished. At dawn, the shouts pull you from straw, and you stumble out with the others. You are given coarse tunics, belts, wooden weapons so heavy your arms ache within minutes. The trainers do not explain kindly. They show by force, correct by pain. You learn that you cannot walk where you wish. You cannot speak when you wish. You cannot refuse. You are taught the drills by repetition, again and again, until your body trembles, until your shoulders burn, until your breath comes ragged. The veterans watch. Some smirk at your clumsiness, remembering their own first days. Others glare, already deciding whether you are worth the space you take. Rivalries spark quickly in the Ludus, and the recruit is always at the bottom. At meals, you sit where you are told. You grip the bowl of barley porridge, so thick it sticks to your teeth, and you swallow it because there is no choice. Around you, the silence of men who eat for fuel, not pleasure. You notice how some guard their food, how some eat fast as if afraid it might vanish. In a way, it might. But the hardest part, the part no one warns you about, comes not in the drills, not in the whip, but in the night. It is when the cell door shuts, and the sounds of the ludus fade to murmurs, that the weight of reality presses down. You lie on the straw, staring at the dark ceiling, and the truth creeps in like a rat. You will never walk out of here a free man. Unless you survive long enough, fight well enough, to earn the crowd's mercy. Unless you win enough battles to buy freedom, though the price is high, so high most never reach it. The Romans have a word for that freedom, rudis, the wooden sword given to a gladiator who has earned release. Men dream of it. They whisper about it, clutch it like a prayer. But for now, on your first night, it is just that, a dream. You roll on the straw, listening to the coughs and whispers of the other men. You think of home, of the life that is no longer yours. You wonder if you will ever hear your own name again, or if the crowd will rename you, shaping your identity as they shape your fate. Sleep does not come easy in the ludus. For the recruit, it comes least of all. In the days that follow, the recruit is tested. Trainers watch not only your body but your will. Some break quickly, collapsing under drills, whimpering under lashes. Others endure stone-faced, earning a grudging nod. And the veterans test you too. They shove in the corridors, sneer in the yard, jostle at the trough. It is not cruelty for its own sake, it is hierarchy. They need to know if you will stand, if you will bend, if you will break. Because one day, you may fight beside them in the arena, and weakness is contagious. At night, in the darkness, you hear the stories. A veteran whispering of the first time he stepped into the Colosseum, of the blinding sunlight, the roar that shook his bones. Another muttering of friends who never came back, of names shouted once and forgotten forever. The recruit listens, half in terror, half in awe. Do you feel it? That shift? You are no longer just yourself. You are part of something larger, crueler. The ludus has swallowed you whole. The drills carve into your muscles, the diet fills you with mass, the punishments teach you obedience. You begin to change. But always, in the back of your mind, the truth gnaws. You are here because you were taken. Because someone decided your body was worth more in the sand than in the street. You did not choose this. And yet you will live it, day after day, until the arena calls. So here you are, a recruit in the ludus. Marked, chained, trained, reshaped. The courtyard sand will taste your sweat. The whip will taste your skin. The straw of your cell will itch at your back each night as you wonder if tomorrow will be your last sunrise. And above it all, the faint echo of the Colosseum's roar waits, always waits, calling you toward a fate you cannot escape. This is the beginning. And as dawn breaks again, the first true day of your new life begins. The first dawn in the ludus does not come gently. You do not wake to birdsong or the warmth of sunbeams slipping through a shutter. You wake to the metallic shriek of keys turning in locks, the slam of doors flung open, the bark of voices echoing off stone. Boots strike the floor with the rhythm of command. Guards move down the corridor, banging rods against iron bars, shouting for men to rise. The straw beneath you clings to your skin, stiff with sweat and the stench of many nights. Your eyes burn from too little sleep, your throat is dry, your body stiff from the cramped mat. And yet there is no time to linger. The door bursts open, and a guard's whip lashes the floor near your feet. You scramble upright. This is your welcome to the routine of the ludus. Your first impression: there is no mercy here, not in the mornings, not in the days, not in the nights. You are herded with the others into the courtyard. The air is chill, the stones damp from the night's dew. The sun is only just climbing the horizon, painting the sky red, as though the world itself bleeds in preparation for the day. You stand barefoot in the sand, the grit biting into your toes, while the trainers pace before you. They look at you not as men, but as clay to be molded, broken, hardened. Their eyes are sharp, their hands ready with whips and rods. You see the scars across their own arms. Old soldiers, some veterans of the arena themselves, men who know the rhythm of combat and the cost of mistakes. One steps forward. His voice is low, cold, carrying across the courtyard. You belong to the Lanista now. You will eat when he allows, train when he commands, sleep when he permits, and fight when he orders. Forget your past. Forget your name. You are gladiators, or you are nothing. The words sink like stones. Some recruits bow their heads, already broken. Others stare defiantly, though the look is fleeting, crushed as soon as the whip cracks against a back too slow to lower. Your first impression of life here is carved deep. Freedom is not even a memory. It is a ghost. Training begins. Not with steel, never with steel, but with wood. Oversized swords and shields, heavier than anything you will carry in the arena. The point is not to teach you victory. The point is to exhaust you, to push your body until it bends or breaks. The weight shocks you. The wooden sword drags at your arm, tearing your shoulder after only minutes. The shield presses down like a stone slab, your muscles screaming with each drill. You stumble, sweat blinding your eyes, sand sticking to your legs as you fall. The trainer's voice cuts through the haze. Up. Again. Again. You rise, fall, rise again, until the world narrows to the sound of your own breath rasping in your throat. This is the rhythm of the ludus: repetition, punishment, endurance. The first impression is not of glory or combat, it is of pain. Around you, the veterans move with a grim grace. They know the drills, their bodies accustomed to the strain. They strike with precision, their movements sharp, their endurance carved from years of practice. They do not spare you a glance. You are nothing to them yet, just another body on the sand. But you notice them. You see the scars, the notches of survival. Some bear the mark of the rudis, the wooden sword of freedom, tattooed into memory by whispers. Others bear only silence, their eyes deadened by too many dawns like this one. Your first impression of your comrades is as varied as their faces, some hardened, some broken, some indifferent. Yet all share the same fate, bound by walls higher than hope. Later, when the drills end and your arms hang heavy as lead, you are driven into the refectory. Wooden bowls are thrust into your hands, filled with barley porridge so thick it clings to the spoon. You eat because hunger drives you, not because the food tempts. Around you, the sound is not of chatter but of chewing, swallowing, silence. The air smells of sweat and smoke, the tables worn smooth by elbows that once belonged to men now long dead. Guards line the walls, watching. Even here, even now, there is no escape from their gaze. You glance across the table at another recruit. His hands shake as he grips the bowl, eyes wide with fear. He is younger than you, perhaps 16. His tunic hangs loose on his frame, his shoulders thin. You wonder if he will survive a week. The impression settles in your chest. The ludus does not care who you are. Old, young, strong, weak, it will grind you the same way, until you endure or you collapse. When the meal ends, you are marched back to the cells. The day is not over, but the morning has already stripped away any illusions you may have held. The ludus is not a school in the way you once imagined. It is not a place of learning. It is a place of breaking. In the corridor, your eyes catch something on the wall, scratched into the stone with desperate hands. Names. Symbols. Marks of men who once stood where you stand now. Some are crude carvings of weapons, others are just initials. You trace one with your finger, wondering if the man who made it still breathes, or if his blood has already soaked the sand of the arena. Your first impression of this place is etched into stone as surely as those marks. It is a world where lives are fleeting, remembered only if someone carves them deep enough to last a little longer. That night you collapse onto the straw mat, your body aching, your arms trembling with exhaustion. The air is thick with the stink of men packed too close together. You hear whispers, prayers, curses, groans. A man sobs quietly in the cell beside you, muffling his sound beneath his blanket. You stare into the dark, your chest rising and falling, and the thought presses in, this is my life now. The first impressions do not fade. They are seared into you with the crack of whips, the weight of wood, the silence of meals, the hopelessness of chains. You know, with the certainty of a blade's edge, that you are no longer a man of the world outside. You are a gladiator of the ludus. And the arena waits. The days blur after that, each much like the first. And yet, that first impression never truly leaves. It shapes the way you see everything else, the walls, the guards, the trainers, the veterans, even the men who fall beside you in drills. Your body adjusts. Your muscles harden. The sword no longer feels like a tree trunk after weeks of practice. But in the back of your mind, you always carry that first morning, the whip, the weight, the silence, the chains. Because the first impression of the ludus is not one of honor, or camaraderie, or even training. It is the impression of ownership. Of being stripped down to nothing but flesh and obedience. And it never truly fades. So you sleep again, straw rustling beneath you, the corridor dark, the air thick. Tomorrow will come with the same clang of locks, the same bark of orders, the same drills that carve your body into a weapon. But tonight you remember the first time the gates closed behind you, the first time the whip cracked, the first time you realized freedom was gone. That was your introduction to the ludus. Your first impression. And from here, the days only grow harsher. Because tomorrow does not only bring more drills. Tomorrow brings the rhythm of routine, the beginning of something crueler, sharper, more relentless. Tomorrow brings the dawn of the gladiator's morning. The second dawn comes like the first, but this time, you are not caught unprepared. The clank of keys, the rasp of bolts, the bark of voices, already you know the sound. The corridor fills with footsteps, the air heavy with the stink of men rising from straw. A guard's rod slams against the iron bars, and you jolt upright before the whip can find you. This is the morning routine of the ludus. Relentless. Merciless. Absolute. There is no pause between waking and obedience. The cell door grates open, and you shuffle out, barefoot on cold stone, joining the line of bodies moving toward the courtyard. The sky is pale, streaked with red, the sun only a smear on the horizon. The air bites at your skin, chill enough to raise gooseflesh, but it doesn't matter. You are outside, standing in sand still damp with night dew, waiting for orders. And the orders come quickly. The first command is always the same: discipline. A trainer steps forward, eyes hard, whip coiled at his side. He inspects the line of men, his gaze lingering on each recruit. Any slouch is punished. Any hesitation earns a lash. He shouts for silence, though none dare speak. Then, with a nod, the day begins. The warm-up is no gentle stretch. It is running laps around the yard, bare feet slapping against sand and stone, breath steaming in the cold air. Your chest heaves within minutes, your legs burning as you push forward. The trainers shout, urging speed, punishing slowness. One man stumbles. He is whipped until he staggers upright again. You learn quickly, pain is the currency of obedience. After the run, drills begin. Wooden swords and shields are thrust into your hands, heavier than any weapon should be. The weight drags at your arms, each swing a battle against your own exhaustion. You strike at a wooden post, over and over, the sound of wood on wood echoing through the yard. The trainers circle, correcting with a lash, a shout, a shove. Higher! Harder! Again. The blows must be precise. The stance exact. There is no room for sloppiness. Every movement is repeated until it becomes muscle memory, etched into your bones. And always the shield. The door-sized slab of wood strapped to your arm, dragging at your shoulder, straining your back. You march with it, raise it, block with it, until your muscles scream. The Romans knew this, endurance was everything. A gladiator who tired too quickly was worthless. So the mornings were built to burn you, to break you, to build you again. The sweat comes quickly. It drips into your eyes, stings your skin, soaks your tunic until it clings. Sand sticks to every inch of you, turning your body into grit and salt. Your arms tremble, your chest heaves, your stomach twists with hunger. But the routine does not stop. Footwork drills follow, stepping forward, backward, sideways, until your legs blur into motion. You are taught to move as much as to strike, to read the rhythm of combat before it even begins. Trainers bark commands, driving you across the yard like cattle. Then comes sparring. It is not friendly, not playful. Two men are paired, armed with wood, set against each other while the others watch. The blows are real. The pain is real. A man struck too hard stumbles back, winded, bruised. Another falls, gasping in the sand, only to be dragged up and ordered to fight again. The first time you face another man, the sword feels clumsy in your grip, the shield too heavy to lift. He swings, the wood cracking against your ribs, and the breath explodes from your lungs. The trainer shouts for you to stand, to fight, to strike. You raise your weapon and swing wildly, the impact jarring your arm. You learn in moments what the routine is meant to teach, not victory, not glory, but survival. You fight because if you do not, you will be beaten worse by the whip than by the sword. Hours pass like this, the drills unending. The sun rises higher, the courtyard hot with reflected light. The air smells of sweat and sand, of blood where men have split their lips, of leather straps rubbing skin raw. And then, finally, a pause. The men are marched to a fountain at the edge of the yard. The water is tepid, cloudy, but you drink it like nectar, gulping until your stomach aches. You splash it on your face, wiping away grit, though the relief lasts only a moment. Already the trainers call you back, already the drills begin again. Morning in the Ludus is not measured by time but by endurance. You know it will not end until the trainers are satisfied, or until the men collapse. Meals come late. By the time you are herded into the refectory, your body is trembling with exhaustion, your tunic plastered to your skin. The smell of food, barley porridge thick with beans, fills the air. You grip the wooden bowl, hands shaking, and devour it as though it were a feast. The taste is bland, the texture heavy, but it fills your stomach, restores your strength just enough to face the rest of the day. Around you, the others eat in silence, each man wrapped in his own thoughts. Guards line the walls, watching, reminding you that even this act, eating, is not freedom but permission. When the bowls are empty, you are marched back out, back to the sand, back to the grind. The morning routine never truly ends. It stretches into midday, into afternoon, until the sun begins to fall. Every day is the same, running, striking, marching, blocking, sparring, repeating. The drills blur together, pain blending into fatigue, fatigue into numbness. And yet, slowly, your body changes. The sword no longer feels impossible to lift. The shield no longer drags you to the ground. Your strikes find their mark with more precision, your stance steadier, your breath longer. This is the cruel rhythm of the Ludus, breaking you until you adapt, and then breaking you again. But what strikes you most is not the drills themselves, not the sweat or the pain, but the atmosphere that clings to every morning. The silence of men who no longer speak of freedom. The eyes of veterans who have endured too many dawns like this one. The lash that always waits, a reminder that no mistake goes unpunished. Your first impression of the Ludus was ownership. Your second, shaped by these mornings, is endurance. Each day begins with pain, continues with pain, and ends with the promise that tomorrow will bring more of the same. And yet you rise. Again and again you rise. Because in the Ludus, the morning is not just routine. It is survival. Night will come, the torches will flicker low, and you will collapse into straw. But morning will always return, dragging you from sleep, driving you into drills, whipping you forward until your body yields. That is the rhythm of your new life. The morning routine that shapes you, scars you, builds you. And beyond it all, always, lies the shadow of the arena, waiting to test whether this routine has made you strong enough to survive, or merely prepared you to die well. The clang of wooden swords fades. The trainer's shouts fall silent. For the first time since dawn, the courtyard is still. Your chest heaves, your tunic clings wet to your skin, your shoulders throb from the endless weight of shield and sword. The sand beneath your feet is darkened with sweat and speckled with drops of blood from split lips and scraped knuckles. Men slump where they stand, gulping at the thin air, their eyes glazed with exhaustion. And then, at last, the call comes. You are herded from the training ground toward the refectory, the hall where the gladiators eat. The smell reaches you before the doorway does, a thick, earthy odor of boiling grains, of beans simmering in great pots, of smoke and sweat mixed into one. Your stomach growls with a sharp, twisting ache. Hunger is a constant companion here, dulled only by these heavy meals. The door creaks open, and you step inside. The refectory is a long, low hall, lit by oil lamps that sputter and spit smoke into the air. Wooden tables stretch the length of the room, scarred by years of elbows, knives, and the weight of countless bowls. The benches groan as men collapse onto them, their bodies too spent to care for posture. Guards stand at intervals along the walls, arms folded, spears in hand, eyes sharp. Even here, under the watch of food, the Ludus remembers, you are prisoners first, fighters second. Slaves move between tables with great pots, ladling thick porridge into wooden bowls. The sound is constant, the wet slap of grain against wood, the scrape of ladles, the low murmur of voices as bowls are passed down the line. You grip yours tightly when it comes, the heat of it warming your palms. The smell rises, barley, beans, a hint of herbs if the lanista has been generous, though it is rare. You raise it to your lips, and the first mouthful fills your tongue, bland, heavy, but blessedly filling. The grains stick to your teeth, the beans soft, the texture more paste than meal. And yet, in that moment, it is the most welcome taste in the world. Because food here is not about pleasure. It is about survival. The gladiator's diet is strange to your tongue. There is little meat, little fish, little of the luxuries Rome's citizens boast about at feasts. Instead, there are grains. Always grains. Barley ground into porridge, thick loaves of coarse bread, beans boiled until they split. Sometimes vegetables appear, onions, garlic, cabbage, their pungent smell filling the hall. On rare days, dried fruit sweetens the bowls, figs or dates, a fleeting glimpse of luxury in a world of monotony. The Romans called gladiators horderii, barley men. It was not an insult, but a reflection of their fuel. Barley, heavier than wheat, built mass. It layered the body with bulk, a cushion against cuts, a reservoir of endurance. It made men slower, perhaps, but harder to kill. Every mouthful you swallow is not just food. It is armor, built from the inside out. Look around the hall as you eat. Some men devour their bowls in minutes, shoveling food down as if afraid it will vanish. Others eat slowly, savoring each bite, their eyes half closed in a rare moment of calm. A few guard their bowls with hunched shoulders, wary of theft, though guards would punish such defiance swiftly. The veterans know the rhythm. They eat enough to fill their bellies, but never so much as to leave them sluggish for the next round of drills. You watch one of them, a broad-shouldered mirmillo with scars crisscrossing his arms, as he breaks his bread into the porridge, soaking it until it vanishes, then scoops the mixture with practiced ease. These men are not eating for taste. They are eating for survival, for strength, for the moment when the gates of the arena swing open, and every ounce of fuel matters. The lanista understands this well. Food is not kindness, it is investment. Each grain, each bean, each loaf is calculated. Too little, and his gladiators weaken, dying too soon. Too much, and he wastes coin. He feeds you exactly what is needed to harden your body, nothing more. Sometimes, when wealthy sponsors visit, the food changes. A piece of roasted meat appears on the table, or wine is poured into cups instead of water. These are not gifts for you. They are displays, meant to impress patrons, to show that the Lanista keeps his men strong. You eat them all the same, grateful for the rare break from monotony. But you know the truth, these meals are theater, no different than the battles you will one day fight. Most days, though, it is porridge, beans, bread. Always the same, day after day, until even hunger cannot disguise the dull taste. And yet, in that monotony, there is a strange kind of comfort. The porridge fills your stomach, dulls the ache of hunger, gives you strength to lift the sword again. The bread, though coarse and dry, feels solid in your hand, grounding you. The beans, mushy and bland, carry a weight that stays with you through the afternoon drills. You eat not because you wish to, but because you must. Because in the Ludus, food is not pleasure, but fuel. And fuel means survival. When the bowls are empty, the hall falls silent. The scrape of spoons fades, the last gulps of water are swallowed, and men push themselves wearily from the benches. The guards bark commands, and you are herded out again into the sun, back to the yard, back to the drills. Your stomach is heavy, your limbs slow, but already the trainers are shouting, already the whips are cracking. The food you ate is burning in your veins now, turned into sweat, into muscle, into endurance. This is the cycle of the Ludus. Morning drills to break you, food to rebuild you, afternoon drills to break you again. Over and over, day after day, until the body hardens, until the man becomes a weapon. At night, lying in the straw, you feel the heaviness of it in your gut. The porridge sits like a stone, anchoring you to the earth. You close your eyes, listening to the groans of men shifting on mats, and you realize, this food is not yours. It belongs to the Ludus, to the Lanista, to Rome itself. It is not given freely. It is given with expectation. You eat so that you may fight. You fight so that Rome may feast on your blood. Food and fuel. That is all it is. Nothing more. And yet, when dawn comes again, and the drills strip you bare, you will crave it. You will beg for it. You will grip that wooden bowl with both hands, grateful for every bland, heavy mouthful. Because without it, the sword would drop, the shield would fall, and you would collapse before the crowd ever had its show. Food does not keep you alive. It keeps you useful. That is the truth of the gladiator's meal. The porridge still sits heavy in your gut when the guards drive you back into the courtyard. The air has shifted since morning. The sun hangs higher now, white and merciless, heat radiating off the walls like a furnace. Shadows shrink. The sand, once cool with dew, is scorching, burning the soles of your feet. And waiting for you in the center of the yard are the weapons. Not gleaming swords of iron. Not the steel blades that glint in mosaics and frescoes. These are wooden, crude to the eye, but far more punishing than any steel. Thick, oversized, weighted until each swing feels like lifting a tree. They call them rudis in training, though not the same as the wooden sword of freedom. These are the opposite, shackles made of oak, chains shaped like blades. The Lanista and his trainers believe in one truth: if you can master the weight of wood, steel will feel like air in your hand. But mastering wood is agony. The weapons are handed out, each recruit gripping the rough wood, splinters biting into palms rubbed raw. Your arms sag immediately, the balance unfamiliar, the heft overwhelming. The shield comes next, broad and heavy, its rim biting into your forearm as you strap it on. The combined weight drags your body forward, crushing you down into the sand. The trainer's voice cuts the air. Hold. Higher. Lock your stance. You lift until your muscles scream. Sweat beads on your brow, drips into your eyes. Already the wood feels impossible. And yet the day has only just begun. The drills begin simple: strike, block, repeat. Over and over, the same movements until your shoulders burn and your legs shake. The trainer walks among you, his eyes sharp, his rod quick. A man lowers his guard for a breath too long, and the rod cracks across his back. Another swings too slowly, and the whip hisses against his calves. There is no leniency. The trainers are relentless. Precision is demanded, repetition enforced. Each strike must land true, each block must hold firm. You learn not by encouragement, but by pain. The wooden sword slams against the wooden post again and again. The sound is dull, splintering, relentless. The vibration runs up your arm, rattling your teeth. The post does not yield. Your muscles must. By midday, the courtyard is a haze of sweat and dust. Men gasp for breath, their tunics plastered to their skin, their arms trembling under the weight of wood. Some collapse, dropping to their knees, only to be dragged upright by guards and forced back into the line. Others push through, their faces set in grim determination, their eyes glazed with exhaustion. You swing, block, until the world narrows to rhythm. The weight of the sword is no longer wood but stone, crushing you with every movement. Your body screams to stop, but the trainer's whip promises worse if you do. So you keep moving. Because here in the ludus, to stop is to fail. And to fail is to suffer. Then comes sparring. Pairs are chosen, weapons raised. The trainer barks for combat. Wooden swords clash with a crack that echoes off the walls. Shields slam together, sand sprays under shuffling feet. The blows are heavy, bruising, far more dangerous than they appear. A strike to the shoulder leaves the arm numb. A blow to the ribs knocks the breath from lungs. A shield slammed into the face leaves a nose bloodied, eyes watering. You face an opponent for the first time. The sword feels twice as heavy now, dragging at your arm. He swings hard, and the impact rattles your bones. You stumble, the sand shifting beneath you, the shield biting into your forearm as you raise it just in time. The trainer shouts, "Counter! Strike!" You lunge, swinging the wood with all your weight. The crack of impact jars through your body. Your opponent staggers, then comes at you again. This is not a dance. It is not theater. It is survival in miniature. Wooden weapons, yes, but the pain is real, the bruises deep, the lessons carved into flesh. The hours grind on. The sun scorches, the sand burns, the weapons grow heavier with every swing. Men drop, are punished, rise again. The courtyard becomes a cacophony of cracks, shouts, whips, groans. Dust coats your tongue, sweat blinds your eyes, and still you swing. Until finally, when the shadows grow long and the air cools, the trainer calls a halt. The weapons drop from trembling hands, shields slide from raw forearms, men collapse into the sand, chests heaving. The day has carved its mark into every muscle, every bruise, every aching bone. This is training with wooden weapons. At night, lying on straw, your body hums with pain. Your arms ache so deeply it feels as though the bones themselves are splintered. Your back burns with lashes, your ribs throb with bruises. Every breath is a reminder of the wood that slammed into you again and again. And yet, there is a strange realization. Tomorrow, you will lift the weapon again. And the day after. And the day after that. And each time, the wood will feel a little less impossible. The shield a little less crushing. The stance a little less foreign. This is the cruel genius of the ludus. Wood that feels like stone now will one day make steel feel like air. The agony of training is meant to sharpen you, to build endurance not only in muscle but in will. Because when the gates of the arena open, and the real blades gleam in the sun, you will not hesitate. Your body will remember. Your arms will know the weight. And the crowd will see not a man fumbling with steel, but a weapon honed by pain. That is why the wood matters. Not because it is safe, it is not. Not because it is kind, it is never kind. But because it is merciless enough to prepare you for the mercilessness to come. You close your eyes, drifting toward uneasy sleep. the ache in your arms pulsing with every heartbeat. Somewhere in the dark, another man groans, another coughs, another whispers a prayer. And you know, tomorrow, the wood will wait again. And you will lift it. Because you must. The morning haze clings low to the sand when the order comes. Bring them steel. For weeks, your world has been wood and sweat, crude swords heavier than stone, shields that ground your shoulder into fire, repetition until your arms trembled too much to lift a spoon. You thought perhaps this was all the Ludus would ever give you. That Rome wanted you to drown in wood until your body forgot what freedom ever felt like. But today is different. The trainers emerge with racks of weapons, gleaming in the pale sun. Iron blades, their edges sharp enough to split skin. Spears with points honed bright. Short Roman swords, gladii, shining like slivers of light. Nets coiled like serpents, tridents that gleam with 3 cruel teeth. Shields with bronze bosses that could cave in a skull. The courtyard goes silent. Even the veterans glance up, their eyes narrowing. For the recruits, breath catches in their throats. Steel is promise. Steel is reality. Steel is the first step into the identity Rome has chosen for you. A trainer calls your name, or rather, the name he has given you, because your old one means nothing now. You step forward, and the first true weapon is thrust into your hands. It is a gladius, short and brutal, the same blade Roman legions used to conquer half the world. But this one is yours. Its weight is different from wood, lighter, sharper, more alive. You feel its balance as you raise it, the way it almost pulls your arm forward, eager to cut. The trainer watches. Good, he mutters. The sword likes you. You glance at him in confusion, but he has already turned away, barking at another recruit. For the first time, you understand, these weapons are not only tools. They are roles. Identities. Rome did not want chaos in its arenas. It wanted spectacle, choreography, a theater of war. And so, each gladiator is shaped into a type, a living symbol the crowd can recognize, cheer, wager on. The Murmillo, with his heavy shield and fish-crested helmet, slow but powerful. The Secutor, built to chase, his smooth helmet designed to deflect the net of his enemy. The Retiarius, armed only with trident and net, dancing like a fisherman hunting prey. The Thracian, with curved blade and small shield, agile and vicious. The Hoplomachus, spearman with round shield, evoking the Greek warriors of old. The Lanista decides which role you will play. Not you. Never you. He looks at your body, your build, your endurance, and decides how you will fight, how you will live, how you will die. And the crowd will come to know you not as a man, but as that type. They will shout it as you enter the arena, not your name but your role, the costume Rome has stitched to your flesh. The training shifts. No longer endless wood against posts. Now steel against steel. The first clash rings out, a sharp metallic crack that cuts the air. Sparks leap from blades, the sound echoing off stone walls. Shields slam, tridents thrust, nets whip through the dust. The courtyard fills with the music of war, raw and unpolished, but music nonetheless. You face your opponent with the gladius, shield raised. The impact jars your arm, the vibration stinging your wrist. You strike back, the blade biting into his shield, leaving a groove. It is no longer dull practice. Each blow could wound. Each mistake could bleed. Fear sharpens your movements. Sweat runs down your face, salt stinging your eyes. Your opponent lunges, his blade slicing a shallow line across your arm. The pain is sharp, hot, real. Blood wells, red against dust. The trainer does not pause. He shouts. Again! Fight through it! Bleed and strike! You do. Because you must. Around you, the other weapons are tested. A Retiarius casts his net, the rope hissing through air before tangling a man's legs. The trident follows, crashing into the sand inches from flesh, its 3 points gleaming. The crowd of recruits shouts, half in awe, half in fear. A murmillo raises his heavy shield, catching blow after blow until his knees buckle. His sword slams down, brutal, crushing, designed to break bone through armor. A Thracian dances, his curved blade flashing, his small shield darting like a wasp. He moves quick, his strikes slashing rather than stabbing, cutting shallow wounds that bleed fast. Each style has its rhythm, its poetry, and each is deadly in its own way. You begin to see the purpose. The arena is not random slaughter. It is theater. A Retiarius against a Secutor, a Thracian against a Murmillo. Rome loves balance, contrast, the drama of opposites. The crowd does not cheer for chaos. It cheers for story. And so, you are not only taught to fight, you are taught to perform. To lift your shield in a way that shows strength. To swing your sword with flourish. To fall in a way that makes the crowd gasp. Even your wounds must be convincing, pain turned into spectacle, agony shaped into entertainment. The weapons are not just steel. They are scripts. And you are cast into a role you cannot refuse. But steel is not wood. It does not forgive. In sparring, accidents happen. A blade slips. A strike lands too hard. Blood splashes the sand. A man crumples, clutching his side, his breath bubbling with red. The trainers drag him away, shouting at the rest to keep fighting. There is no pause for pity. You realize then that even in training, death is never far. Steel does not care if the match was meant to be practice. Steel cuts, steel pierces, steel kills. And that is the point. The lanista needs to know who can bleed and keep standing. Who can take a wound and still strike. Who crumbles when the red runs, and who becomes more dangerous. Because in the arena, you will bleed. And the crowd will decide whether you rise or fall. As dusk falls, the weapons are collected, stacked back onto racks, their edges nicked and blood-stained from the day's work. You sag against the wall, your arms heavy, your body trembling from the strain. The cut on your arm stings, already crusted with dried blood. The veterans murmur as they pass, voices low. You catch fragments, stories of fights, of crowds, of comrades who did not return. Their eyes are not on you, not really. They are on the weapons, on the iron that binds their fates. Because here in the ludus, wood breaks your body. But steel defines it. At night, lying in the straw, you cannot shake the memory of the blade slicing your arm, the sharp sound of steel meeting steel, the sparks that flew in the dust. You dream of tridents and nets, of curved blades flashing, of shields crashing like thunder. And always, in your dream, the roar of the crowd rises. Because soon, the weapons will not be for sparring. They will be for blood. And the sand of the Colosseum will drink what the training ground only tastes. The first cut from steel has barely healed when you learn something every gladiator knows. The weapon may wound your body, but it is discipline that changes your soul. The Lanista's school does not run on courage alone. It runs on fear. Step into the courtyard again. The sun is high, the air heavy with heat, but the silence is thicker than the weather. A man stands in the center of the sand, his head bowed, his hands bound behind him. He is not a recruit. He is a veteran. You can tell by the scars, by the way his shoulders are still broad despite the years. And yet here he is, trembling. The trainer paces around him, whip coiled in his hand. The gathered gladiators watch, pressed shoulder to shoulder, silent. The man's crime is whispered defiance. He spoke back when ordered to train harder. A single word of resistance. The whip cracks. The sound is sharp enough to make you flinch, even as you try not to. The leather bites into flesh, tearing it open in a line of red. The man staggers but does not cry out. The whip falls again and again, until his back is a canvas of blood. Then silence. The trainer turns to the watching men and says only, "This is what defiance earns." The lesson is clear. The arena may kill you, But here, in the ludus, discipline keeps you alive, or it kills you first. Discipline in the ludus is everywhere. It shapes every breath, every step. You rise when commanded, eat when permitted, train until you collapse, and even then, you rise again when the lash demands it. There is no disobedience. There is no pause. The trainers enforce it with rods and whips, with fists and boots, with chains that drag across stone. Some punishments are swift: a lash across the back for dropping your shield, a cuff to the head for stepping out of line. Others are harsher: days in shackles, legs rubbed raw by iron, left standing until the body shakes with exhaustion. And then there are punishments meant not just for the body, but for the spirit. Imagine it. You are dragged from your cell at night, the straw still clinging to your hair. The guards lead you to the courtyard, where torches gutter in the dark. There you are forced to kneel, chains biting into your wrists. The trainer orders you to hold your shield high above your head. The weight burns your arms. Minutes pass, then an hour, then longer. Every muscle trembles, every breath comes in ragged gasps. If you lower it, the whip waits. This is discipline. Not to kill, but to teach obedience through pain. To remind you that your body is not yours. It belongs to the lanista. To Rome. Some punishments are public, meant to terrify the others. A man who tries to escape is dragged back, beaten bloody in the sand, then chained in the courtyard for all to see. His eyes are hollow, his breath ragged, but he is made to sit there for days, a living warning. Every recruit passes him on the way to training, and every recruit understands the message: there is no escape. Another man, caught stealing food, is forced to wear a wooden collar so heavy he cannot lift his head. He stumbles through drills bent double, mocked by the trainers, jeered by the guards. The humiliation cuts deeper than the lash. Discipline is not only pain, it is control. The lanista knows this. He shapes not only your body, but your mind. He teaches you that your choices are gone, your will broken, your obedience absolute. But here is the paradox. The same men who are beaten, chained, humiliated, rise again to train, to fight, to bleed for the crowd. Why? Because the punishments are not designed to kill. Not yet. Death wastes money. The lanista punishes only to the point where a man bends, not where he breaks. He needs you alive, strong enough to fight, obedient enough to obey. And so you endure. You endure the lash, the chains, the collars, the endless drills enforced by pain. You endure because you must. At night, the marks remain. Men lie in straw, their backs striped red, their shoulders raw, their ankles bruised from shackles. The air smells of blood and sweat and oil, as wounds are rubbed with cheap salves to keep infection at bay. You hear groans in the dark, muffled sobs, whispered prayers. And yet dawn always comes. And with it, the whip cracks again, and the cycle repeats. Discipline and punishment. The two pillars of the ludus. The lash keeps you obedient, the chain keeps you in line, the fear keeps you alive long enough to serve Rome's hunger. Sometimes, though, the punishments go too far. You remember one day, a recruit struck too many times for stumbling during sparring. He collapsed, his body twitching, his breath shallow. The trainer paused only long enough to check if he still lived. When the man did not rise, the guards carried him away. He was not seen again. His straw mat lay empty that night, his name already forgotten. The other men did not speak of him. To do so would be dangerous. Silence is its own discipline. But you remember. And the memory cuts deeper than the whip ever did. There are rumors, whispered in corners, of greater punishments still. Men thrown into the arena unprepared, used as fodder for veterans, their deaths a lesson to the others. Men forced to fight wild beasts, not for sport but as retribution. These are not spoken loudly, but the whispers coil in your mind as you lie awake. And you wonder, what line must you not cross to avoid such fates? How much of yourself must you surrender before the lash takes what is left? Discipline and punishment do more than keep the ludus in order. They carve fear into your bones. They remind you daily that you are not free, not safe, not in control. They shape you into a weapon by breaking everything else first. The arena may decide whether you live or die. But the ludus decides how you endure until that day. And when dawn breaks again, the whip cracks, the chains rattle, and you rise scarred, trembling, obedient. Because here, in the school of gladiators, pain is not the exception. It is the rule. The sting of the whip still lingers in your flesh when you discover another truth. The ludus does not wait for the arena to draw blood. It happens first in sparring. At the beginning, you believed the trainers would hold back. That practice was practice, meant only to prepare you. Wooden swords cracked across shields, bruised ribs, split lips. Pain, yes, but survivable. The kind of pain that could be endured, that could be ignored. But then the steel came. And steel does not play. The first time you see blood in training, it is almost accidental. A Murmillo stumbles mid-swing, his shield slipping. His opponent's blade slides past, biting into his arm. The cut is shallow, but bright red wells up, dripping down his forearm, splattering the sand. The trainer does not stop them. He does not order a pause, does not call for a medic. He shouts instead, "Keep fighting!" And so the man fights, blood slick on his fingers, dripping from the hilt of his sword. The wound stains the sand, and the smell of iron fills the air. You realize then that blood is part of training. That every clash of steel carries risk. And that Rome does not fear it, Rome demands it. Soon it happens again. And again. A slash across a thigh, a gash along the cheek, a split knuckle where a sword glanced the wrong way. Men bleed daily in the yard. They bind their wounds with strips of cloth, smear cheap salves into cuts, and return to the line before the day is done. There is no time to heal. No luxury of rest. Blood is simply part of the cost. The trainers even encourage it. A man who has not bled, one sneers, has not trained. But some wounds are not so shallow. You remember the first man who fell. It was during an afternoon drill, the sun blazing, the yard thick with dust. Two men clashed, their swords ringing. One struck too hard, too fast. His blade sank deep into his opponent's side. There was a sound, not of metal, not of wood, but of flesh giving way. A sickening, wet sound that froze you in place. The wounded man staggered, eyes wide, clutching his side as blood poured between his fingers. He fell to his knees, then to the sand, gasping. For a heartbeat, the yard was silent. And then the trainer barked an order, and the fight resumed around him as though nothing had happened. Guards dragged the man away, leaving a dark stain in the sand. By nightfall, his straw mat lay empty. This is how you learn. The ludus itself is an arena. Training is not safe. It is not controlled. It is as dangerous as any staged fight, and men die here just as they do beneath the eyes of the crowd. Blood in training is not a mistake. It is design. The lanista wants to see who can endure a cut, who can keep fighting through pain, who panics when the red runs, and who grows fiercer. The crowd loves blood, and so the ludus feeds you to it early, shaping you into a man who does not flinch when steel bites. You begin to carry scars of your own. A slice along your forearm from a gladius that slipped past your guard. A cut across your cheek where a shield rim caught you. A bruise that blooms black along your ribs, spreading like ink beneath the skin. Each mark is a memory. A lesson. A reminder that here, even survival costs flesh. At night, you lie on straw, your wounds burning, the air thick with the smell of oil and blood. Other men groan beside you, clutching their injuries, whispering curses or prayers. You learn to sleep through it, or not at all. And yet, slowly, something shifts. The first time you bled, fear overwhelmed you. The sight of your own blood on the sand made your breath hitch, your hands tremble. But repetition dulls even terror. Soon you begin to accept it. A cut becomes routine. A bruise becomes nothing. Blood no longer means death, it means training. You begin to wear your wounds with a strange kind of pride. A mark that says, I endured. I survived another day. The veterans notice. They nod, just slightly, when a recruit fights on through blood. Approval is rare here, but it comes in these small gestures. The trainers push harder. They pair men who hate each other, forcing them to fight until blood spills. They pit veterans against recruits, testing endurance against desperation. They order men to fight past exhaustion, swinging until their arms give way, until the blood from their wounds drips into the sand. And always, the lash waits. Not for bleeding, but for stopping. A man who falters is punished more than a man who wounds. Blood in the ludus is not weakness. Hesitation is. Sometimes sparring ends with a crowd of men standing in a circle around two fighters, shouting, jeering, urging them on. The trainers let the fight go longer, fiercer, until both men stagger, blood streaking their skin, eyes wild with exhaustion. It is practice for the arena, but it is also entertainment for the trainers, the guards, even for the gladiators themselves. In those moments, the line between training and combat vanishes. The yard becomes the Colosseum in miniature. The men are no longer practicing. They are surviving. You learn to taste blood in your mouth, to wipe it away with the back of your hand, to grit your teeth and strike again. You learn that pain is constant, that bleeding is expected, that only by embracing it can you endure. The ludus teaches you to live with blood before the crowd demands it. To fight in it, to slip on it, to breathe it. Because the day will come when the gates of the arena open, and the roar of Rome will thunder in your ears. And when the first cut slices your flesh, you will not falter. You will already know the taste of blood. At night, when the torches burn low and the cells fall silent, you lie awake, staring into the dark. Your wounds throb, your muscles ache, your mind replays the moment steel met flesh. And you realize, in this place, blood is not only a measure of pain, it is a measure of progress. You have bled. You have endured. You have survived another day in the school of death. And tomorrow, you will bleed again. The wound on your arm crusts with dried blood. The bruise along your ribs blossoms purple, spreading like spilled ink beneath the skin. The aches and scars fade slowly, but they do fade. What lingers is something deeper. It is the silence after the clash. When the yard empties, when the swords are racked and the whips coil into stillness, when the men drag themselves back to their cells, that is when the burden settles. You lie on straw, staring into the dark, the sounds of the ludus drifting around you, a cough from the next cell, the shuffle of chains, the muttered prayer of a man who cannot sleep. And in that silence the thoughts come. The fear. The weight. The knowledge. That tomorrow, or the next day, or the next, the gate will open, and you will walk into the arena. And perhaps you will not return. The psychological burden of a gladiator is not in the clash of steel. It is in the waiting. Imagine it. You wake each dawn with no certainty that you will see nightfall. You train each day knowing the end of training is death, staged for a crowd. You eat barley porridge not as a meal, but as fuel for your own possible execution. Every moment is shadowed by that truth. Some men face it with denial. They laugh, boast, pretend they are invincible. They carve their names into stone walls as though leaving a mark might cheat mortality. They swagger in the yard, draw cheers in practice bouts, whisper to themselves that they will not be the one to fall. Others withdraw. They go silent, their eyes hollow, their words few. They sit in corners, staring at nothing, as though already gone in spirit though their bodies still draw breath. And then there are those who pray. To Mars, to Fortuna, to Jupiter, to Christ. They whisper invocations in every language the empire has swallowed. Gods are called upon nightly in the cells of the ludus. But the gods are silent. The lash cracks the same, the gates still open, the crowd still roars. The trainers teach you how to fight, how to bleed, how to endure pain. But no one teaches you how to live with the waiting. That is a lesson you learn alone. At night, when you close your eyes, you see the arena, even if you've never entered it yet. You imagine the blinding sunlight, the sand stretching wide, the thousands of faces staring down. You imagine the roar, the drums, the smell of blood already soaking the ground. And worst of all, you imagine the man across from you. Who will he be? A stranger? A comrade? The man who shared his bread with you last night? The man who whispered a prayer beside you? And when you imagine him, you realize the cruelest truth: if you hesitate, if you falter, you die. And if he falters, he dies. There is no room for mercy, no room for compassion. The burden is not only fear of your own death. It is the knowledge that survival means killing another man who stands where you stand, who feels what you feel. The mind bends under it. Some men shatter. You hear it in the sobs muffled into straw, in the muttered words that never stop, in the hollow laughter that bursts too loud at nothing at all. A man can bleed 100 times and survive, but one thought, repeated too often, can break him. Others build walls. They harden their hearts, strip away empathy, bury fear beneath layers of cruelty. They sneer at weakness, mock those who pray, strike harder in practice than in need. For them, the burden is deflected outward. Better to be feared than pitied. Better to feel nothing than to feel the weight. And then there are the rare ones who carry it differently. They embrace it. They stare death in the face and find strength in it. They whisper, "If I must die, I will die well. If I must live, I will live loudly." These are the ones who become legends, not because they are stronger, but because they accept what others cannot. You feel the burden in your dreams. The blood you spilled in training returns in the night, magnified, twisted. Faces blur, wounds reopen, shadows chase you across endless sand. You wake with a gasp, sweat cold on your skin, the straw damp beneath you. You hear others waking the same way. The nightmares are shared, though no one speaks of them. By day, you feel the burden in silence. The way men glance at each other during drills, measuring, calculating. The way a pause lingers in the refectory when someone's gaze meets another's too long. The unspoken thought rising. One day, it may be you and me. The burden gnaws constantly. Not just fear of pain, but fear of choice. The choice between survival and mercy. Between being remembered as strong, or forgotten as weak. And layered over all of it is the crowd. Even in the quiet of your cell, you can hear them in your imagination. Tens of thousands of voices, roaring for blood. They will not know your name, not really. They will not care if you are Gaul or Greek, slave or debtor, father or son. To them, you are only a moment's entertainment. Their hunger becomes part of your burden. Their demands echo in your skull. You train knowing that when you fall, it is not enough to fall bravely. You must fall in a way that pleases them. Your death, if it comes, must be good theater. Imagine living every day with that knowledge pressed against your chest. That your life is not yours. It belongs to strangers who will cheer when you bleed. Sometimes, late at night, when the torches gutter low and silence stretches long, you catch yourself wishing for the lash. At least pain is simple. Pain is real. Pain can be endured. It is the waiting that unravels you. The waiting. The knowing. The endless repetition of the thought, it could be tomorrow. It could be me. This is the psychological burden of the gladiator. It is not the whip. Not the sword. Not the blood in the sand. It is the silence in the dark. The thoughts that gnaw. The dreams that break. And yet, despite it, you rise each dawn. You lift the sword again. You march into the yard. You bleed in training. You endure the lash. Because the burden is heavy, but there is no choice. You carry it, or it crushes you. The day drains from you like blood from a wound. Your arms ache, your ribs throb, your mind hums with the weight of drills, lashes, and the endless sting of fear. When the trainer finally barks for dismissal, it feels less like mercy and more like a stay of execution, a brief reprieve until tomorrow begins again. The guards herd you from the yard, through stone corridors that echo with footsteps and groans. The air grows cooler, damp with the smell of mildew. A torch flares, casting jagged shadows across the walls. And then, the iron door opens, and you step into the barracks. The barracks is no sanctuary. It is a cage dressed as rest. Rows of small cells line the corridor, each little more than a stone box with a straw mat in the corner. The straw is stale, sour with the sweat of too many nights. Rats skitter along the walls, bold enough to nibble scraps if you leave them unattended. The air is thick, sweat damp, smoke from the torches, and the faint copper tang of blood still clinging to your skin. Men shuffle inside, collapsing onto mats with groans that echo like a chorus. The sound of straw crunching under bodies fills the air, punctuated by coughs, curses, the muttered prayers of men who do not know if they will wake tomorrow. You lower yourself onto the straw. It scratches your skin, digs into your bruises, but exhaustion pins you down too heavily to protest. The day's pain follows you into the night. The evenings in the barracks are their own world. Some men fall silent, staring at the ceiling, lost in their own thoughts. Their eyes glaze, their lips move soundlessly, rehearsing prayers or bargains whispered to gods who never answer. Others seek distraction, whispering stories of lives left behind, of wives in far-off villages, of children they may never see again, of battles lost that brought them here. Their voices are soft, trembling, afraid to draw the guard's attention, but in the dark, a man's whisper can sound like an entire memory breathing again. And then there are those who laugh. Not because anything is funny, but because laughter is the only shield left. Crude jokes ripple through the cells, tales of guards mocked in secret, of trainers' tempers parroted in whispers. The laughter is harsh, cracked, tinged with desperation. It is not joy. It is survival. The guards patrol the corridor, spears glinting in torchlight. Their boots strike the stone in steady rhythm. At times, one pauses to peer into a cell, his shadow stretching long across the straw. A single word out of line, a whisper too loud, and the whip will return. So the barracks live in a strange balance, too silent to be comfortable, too noisy to be restful. Food lingers here, too. Not the hot porridge of the refectory, but scraps, crusts of bread tucked under mats, dried figs hoarded from rare meals. Some men trade quietly, half a loaf for a promise of help in training, a handful of beans for a whispered favor. Food is currency in the barracks. Even in exhaustion, hunger gnaws, and a man will bargain anything to soothe it. You learn quickly to eat what you have, to guard what little remains, to trust no one fully when the lamps burn low. The barracks also breeds something else, rivalry. The man who fought you in sparring that morning lies only feet away. His breath rasps in the dark, his body shifts on straw, and you wonder, will you face him again tomorrow? Or in the arena? Men who clash in the yard must lie side by side at night, listening to each other breathe, knowing one day that breath might stop under their own blade. The tension is thick, almost tangible. A cough becomes an insult. A laugh becomes a threat. Fights break out, whispered arguments that rise to shouts, shouts that rise to blows, until guards storm in with rods and whips, beating silence back into the cells. And yet, amid rivalries, bonds form. In the barracks, friendships are forged not by choice, but by necessity. A man shares a scrap of bread. Another offers advice on how to grip the gladius, how to angle a shield to deflect a strike. These gestures, small and fleeting, mean survival. Allies in the yard become allies in the cell, men leaning against each other in the dark, bruised shoulders pressed together, offering warmth and a flicker of trust. You hear stories of pairs who fought side by side in the arena, brothers not by blood but by straw and sweat, who refused to leave each other even when ordered to fight. Their names live on in whispers, half memory, half legend. But for every bond, there is a fracture. Betrayals are whispered, too, of men who turned on comrades to win a fight, of friendships broken in the sand when the crowd demanded blood. The barracks is a crucible. It burns men together as often as it burns them apart. And when the torches dim lower, when the guards grow quiet, when the barrack settles into uneasy stillness, the night becomes the longest trial. Sleep is no true rest. Dreams twist into nightmares. You relive the drills, the whip, the cut of steel. You hear the roar of a crowd you have not yet faced. You wake with a gasp, heart pounding, straw damp beneath you. Around you, others stir, their own nightmares snapping them awake. The barracks breathes heavy with fear. In those moments, silence stretches like a wound. A man whispers a prayer. Another weeps quietly, his face buried in straw. Another stares into the dark, his eyes reflecting the torchlight like an animal's. No one speaks of these nights in the morning, but all carry them. Evenings in the barracks strip you bare. Training breaks your body. Punishment breaks your will. But the barracks breaks something deeper. It forces you into intimacy with strangers who may one day kill you, into silence with men who fear as you fear, into dreams that echo with blood. It is not rest. It is not peace. It is survival in the dark. And when the dawn comes again, the sound of keys scraping in locks, the slam of doors flung open, the bark of orders echoing down the corridor, you rise. Exhausted, bruised, afraid. You rise. Because the barracks is not an end. It is a pause. A breath held between drills. A silence that leads only back to the sand. And as you shuffle once more into the courtyard, the cycle begins again. The barracks grows quiet. The coughs fade. The whispers fall away. The torches sputter low, shadows stretch long across the stone, and the men, one by one, surrender to the weight of exhaustion. The silence deepens, broken only by the shuffle of rats in the straw and the faint drip of water from the ceiling. It is in this silence, when the whips are still and the trainers gone, that the mind is loudest. And the mind, caged as the body is caged, turns to dreams. Some dreams are simple. A man rolls onto his back and stares at the ceiling, eyes wide, lips moving soundlessly as though rehearsing the moment of freedom. He dreams of the rudis, the wooden sword of release, the symbol given to those rare few who survive long enough, fight well enough, to earn their freedom. He pictures the crowd roaring not for his death, but for his release. He imagines walking through the gates not into the arena, but out into the streets, unchained, unnamed, a man again. Others dream of home. You hear them sometimes, whispers drifting through the dark. A Thracian murmurs about the fields he once plowed, the smell of earth after rain. A Gaul speaks of pine forests and rivers that run cold and clear. A Roman debtor closes his eyes and imagines his wife, her face blurred now with distance, her voice remembered only in fragments. These dreams cling stubbornly, even as the lash, the steel, the blood remind the body daily that there is no escape. Dreams are not rational. They are survival. But despair grows just as easily. For every man who whispers of freedom, another mutters only curses. He knows the rudis is a fantasy, a prize dangled to keep men fighting harder, longer, without complaint. Few ever earn it. Fewer still live long enough to use it. For most, there is only the sand, the roar, the blade. Despair creeps into the barracks in silence. You see it in the hollow stares of men who no longer speak of home. In the way they eat without tasting, fight without passion, lie down at night without prayer. They have surrendered already, though their bodies still rise at dawn. One night you wake to the sound of weeping. Not loud, not uncontrolled. Just soft sobs muffled into straw. You do not know the man, not well. But you know the sound. It is not grief for someone lost. It is grief for oneself, for the slow erosion of hope until nothing remains. Despair does not always kill quickly. Sometimes it gnaws day by day, until a man is hollowed out. And when the arena comes, he does not fight. He lets the blade fall. The crowd jeers, the Lanista curses, but the man feels only relief. Between dreams and despair lies another truth, longing. Not just for freedom, but for touch, for warmth, for something human in a place built to strip humanity away. In the barracks, men lie so close their shoulders brush. They share warmth in the chill nights, pass scraps of food, whisper prayers together. Bonds form not from choice, but from need. And in those bonds, fragile sparks of hope flicker. But longing cuts both ways. A man who dreams of his wife remembers too clearly that he may never see her again. A man who dreams of his child knows that child will grow without him. Hope sharpens the knife of despair. The closer the dream, the crueler the distance. You begin to notice it in yourself. At night, when you close your eyes, you dream of the arena. Not of dying, but of winning. Of the crowd roaring your name, of coins tossed into the sand, of the Lanista nodding with approval. You imagine yourself carved into frescoes, whispered about in taverns, a legend in your own time. It feels strange to admit it, even to yourself, but glory is its own lure. The arena is terror, yes, but it is also the only stage left to you. If you cannot escape Rome, perhaps you can at least conquer it in spectacle. And then you wake, the straw scratching your back, the stench of sweat in your nose, and the dream fades. Because no matter how brightly it burned, the reality is this: most men do not die remembered. They die nameless, faceless, one more body dragged from the sand. Dreams and despair wrestle in the dark. One man whispers to himself that he will live to see freedom. Another mutters that tomorrow may be his last. One closes his eyes and smiles faintly at the memory of home. Another stares into nothing, already gone in spirit. The barracks is a graveyard of dreams, but also the only place they still live. For in the sand of the arena, there is no room for dreaming, only for blood. Some men find escape in stories. You hear them at night, whispered through the dark, fragments of myths carried from every corner of the empire. A Greek tells of Achilles, who chose short glory over long obscurity. A Roman speaks of Horatius at the bridge, holding back an army until the river swallowed him. A Celt murmurs of heroes who became gods, whose names were sung for generations. These stories are not history. They are comfort. For a gladiator, myth is not far from truth. If one cannot live free, perhaps one can at least die remembered. And so the stories mingle with dreams, and both blur with despair. The barracks becomes a place where hope and hopelessness share the same straw. When dawn comes, the dreams scatter like smoke. The guards slam doors, the whips crack, the trainers shout. Men rise, groggy, silent, resigned. The night is forgotten, or buried, or denied. But as you march back into the courtyard, wooden sword in hand, shield biting into your arm, you carry something with you, the echo of that dream, or the weight of that despair. It shapes how you fight, how you endure, how you survive. And in Rome, that may be the only thing a gladiator truly owns. The barracks hums with unspoken truths. Every night, men lie side by side, close enough to hear each other's breath, close enough to feel the warmth of another body pressed against the cold. In this closeness, something inevitable happens. Friendships form. Alliances take root. Trust, cautious and fragile, begins to flicker in the dark. And just as easily, rivalries grow sharp. For in the ludus, every man knows that one day he may be ordered to fight the man who shares his bread. And in that tension, bonds and rivalries are woven together, threads of loyalty knotted tightly beside strands of jealousy and hate. The first bond is necessity. Training is relentless, punishing, designed to break the body. No man endures it alone. When your arms tremble too much to lift the shield, another man shoves it back into your hand, muttering, "Hold it, brother." When your wound splits open during drills, someone tears a strip of his tunic and binds it before the trainer notices. These small acts of mercy are survival. They mean nothing to the lanista, but everything to you. They carve a bond that cannot be denied. You helped me when I could not stand, therefore I will remember you when my strength returns. In the yard you see it everywhere. Men covering for one another when exhaustion falters their step. Veterans whispering advice to recruits, teaching them how to brace their legs, how to catch a blow on the shield's rim. A silent nod shared after a brutal spar, a glance that says, "I see you. You endured. So did I." These are not luxuries. They are lifelines. But as bonds grow, so do rivalries. A man wins too often in sparring, and others whisper that he is favored by the lanista. A recruit outlasts his seniors in drills, and jealousy burns in tired eyes. Bread is stolen. Insults hissed. A shove in the yard turns into a blow into a fight, until guards break it apart with rods. The barracks becomes a cauldron, heat and pressure building until tempers boil. Men are forced into proximity too close to ignore each other's flaws, too close to hide envy, too close to keep hatred buried. Every friendship carries the shadow of betrayal. Every rivalry carries the taste of death. You feel it most during sparring. The man across from you may be your comrade, the one who shared his water with you yesterday. But the trainer's voice is sharp, "Fight." And so you strike. Wood cracks against shield, iron scrapes across iron. You see the glint in his eye, not just training, but something sharper, something personal. Perhaps he envies your endurance. Perhaps he resents your survival. Perhaps he simply knows that one day the crowd will shout for his death or yours, and he'd rather it not be his. Blows land harder than they need to. Shields slam with unnecessary force. The line between sparring and combat blurs. When it ends, the two of you stumble apart, bruised, bloody, panting. And the silence between you is heavy. Is he still your comrade? Or did something break in that clash? The lanista encourages this. He knows that rivalry fuels performance. Men who hate each other fight harder, strike sharper, bleed more willingly. He pits them against each other in drills, fans their jealousy with carefully chosen words. A glance, a nod, a whisper of praise for one and not the other, these are sparks enough to set the barracks smoldering. And yet, he also knows the power of bonds. Comrades who trust one another fight side by side with a ferocity unmatched. So he cultivates both. He lets friendships form, then threatens to break them. He stirs rivalries, then forces men to fight beside those they despise. It is a cruel balance, but it is deliberate. For in the arena, bonds and rivalries both serve the same master, spectacle. You see the results in the barracks at night. Two men sit shoulder to shoulder, whispering quietly, their voices low and urgent, as though sharing secrets that will outlast the walls. Another pair lies back to back, their bodies pressed close not only for warmth but for reassurance. Bonds like these give strength. You can see it in the way they walk, in the way they fight together. And yet, across the room, two others glare at each other in silence, the tension so thick it hums in the air. A careless laugh from one draws a sneer from the other. Tomorrow, they will be paired in drills, and blood will be spilled before the guards pull them apart. The barracks breathes with this dual rhythm, trust and suspicion, brotherhood and enmity. It is a fragile balance, and every night it tips a little closer to one side. Stories linger in the air, carried from man to man. Of the two comrades who swore an oath never to kill each other, only to be forced into the arena as opponents. The crowd demanded blood. They hesitated. The lash fell from the editor's chair, ordering them to fight. And so, with tears in their eyes, they struck. One died in the sand, the other lived, but the bond between them was broken forever. of the rivals who despised each other so much that when they were paired in the arena, they fought not the enemy before them, but each other, and the crowd roared louder than ever at the unexpected spectacle. Both died, and the lanista profited doubly from the wagers of the man who betrayed his comrade for a chance at survival, striking harder than he needed to in training, leaving the other crippled and useless. That night, the barracks fell silent as the injured man lay moaning in straw. By dawn, he was gone. The betrayer lived, but no man ever sat beside him again. These stories are warnings, but they are also inevitabilities. You feel it yourself, slowly creeping. A bond forms with the man who shares his water with you, who teaches you how to angle your shield. You laugh together in rare moments, whisper to each other at night. You trust him more than the others. And yet, in the back of your mind, the question gnaws, what if it is him? What if I am ordered to face him? Would you hesitate? Would you falter? Would you strike? And if you strike, will you kill him quickly, mercifully? Or will you draw it out, as the crowd demands? The thought lingers, heavy, unavoidable. This is the truth of the ludus. Bonds and rivalries are two sides of the same coin. Both are sharpened by proximity. Both are twisted by necessity. Both are destined to end in the same place, the sand of the arena. There, in the roar of the crowd, loyalty means nothing. Hatred means nothing. Only survival matters. And yet, in the barracks, in the brief silence between drills, men still reach for each other. They still whisper promises, still forge pacts, still share scraps of food and fragments of hope. Because even if the bond breaks in blood tomorrow, tonight it is a light against the dark. And sometimes that is enough. When the torches dim and the corridors fall silent, the ludus changes. By day, it is a place of noise, whips cracking, blades ringing, trainers shouting, men groaning as they stagger beneath wooden shields. But at night, when the last meal is finished, when the guards have locked the doors and withdrawn to their posts, a heavy hush settles over the school. The hush is not peace. It is weight. Stone holds sound differently in darkness. Every cough echoes. Every rustle of straw seems louder. A man turning in his sleep sounds like a body dragged across the floor. The rattle of chains carries far down the corridor, making it impossible to forget that you are bound even in rest. You lie on your mat, eyes open, staring into shadow. The air is thick, warm with the smell of unwashed bodies, faintly sour with mold. Somewhere, water drips steadily, one drop, then another, like the ticking of a clock you cannot see. This is night in the ludus. For some, it is the hardest part of the day. During training, pain distracts you. The lash demands your focus. The weight of the wooden sword leaves no room for wandering thoughts. But at night, there is no shield, no drill, no whip. Only silence, and the voices inside your own head. You hear them around you. The whispered prayers to gods near and far, Jupiter, Mars, Christ, Mithras. Each man calls to his own. Some pray for survival. Some for freedom. Some simply for death to come quickly, without shame. Others weep. Quietly into straw, muffled so the guards will not hear. Men who fought all day without flinching now crumble in the dark, the masks stripped away by silence. Their sobs mingle with the drip of water, with the shuffle of rats, until they seem part of the night itself. And some lie utterly still, eyes open, breathing slow, lost in thoughts too heavy to speak. These are the most dangerous, men so consumed by silence that they no longer fear it. The barracks is not always quiet. Sometimes arguments flare even in the dark. A stolen scrap of bread, an insult muttered, a grudge carried from the yard. Fists thud into flesh, bodies crash into walls, curses hiss sharp in the night. The noise draws guards, their rods striking down harder than any blow. Blood spatters straw, the cries muffled into silence again. And sometimes, worse sounds rise. A scream, raw and unrestrained, as punishment is carried out even at night. You do not always see it, the man dragged into the courtyard, the whip whistling through air, the flesh torn open. But you hear it. The cries carry through stone. They pierce sleep, pierce thought, pierce even the walls men build around their minds. The screams always end. The silence returns. But the echo lingers, woven into the night like smoke. Then there are the chains. Some men are shackled at night, wrists or ankles bound to iron rings set into stone. You hear them shift, the links scraping, rattling with every movement. The sound is constant, rhythmic, like the beat of a drum. At first, it keeps you awake. Later, it becomes part of the night's texture, so familiar that silence feels strange without it. But the chains do more than rattle. They remind you, even in sleep, that you are owned. That you could not run even if you tried. That freedom is not a dream, but a lie. Not all nights are filled with despair. Sometimes, men whisper stories to each other. Memories of villages, of rivers, of women waiting far away. Myths of gods and heroes, told in low voices that carry just enough to reach the next mat. Stories soften the weight, give the silence shape, make the night bearable. A Gaul tells of spirits who walk forests under moonlight, guiding the dead to rest. A Greek murmurs the tale of Heracles, who wrestled death itself and won. A Roman recalls the founding of the city, wolves and twins and destiny. The stories are not just words. They are threads binding men together in the dark, weaving bonds stronger than chains. For a moment, the ludus feels less like a prison and more like a campfire. The shadows still press close, but within them flickers something that feels almost human. Sleep, when it comes, is uneasy. Dreams twist into nightmares. You relive the whip, the blade, the crowd's roar. You see comrades falling, blood soaking sand, the editor's hand signaling thumbs down. You wake gasping, heart pounding, straw damp with sweat. Others wake too, some with muffled cries, some with sudden movements that shake the mats. The barracks is a chorus of restless sleep, of bodies fighting battles even in dreams. There is no true rest here, only brief escapes. Yet night in the ludus has another face. It is the time when secrets are whispered, when men reveal pieces of themselves they would never admit by day. A man confesses that he killed his master to be sent here. Another admits he volunteered, desperate for coin, for glory, for something more than the life he left behind. Another whispers that he has no dream, no prayer, only the hope that death will come quickly when it is his turn. These confessions hang heavy in the dark. They are not judged, not mocked. They are simply absorbed, swallowed into the silence, carried like another scar. The hours crawl. Torches gutter. Shadows stretch and collapse. Guards change shifts, their boots echoing through the corridor. The drip of water continues. The chains rattle. Men stir and settle. And then, finally, dawn seeps through the cracks. Keys scrape in locks. Doors slam open. The trainers' voices return. The whip cracks. The night dissolves into day once more, and the cycle resumes. Nights in the ludus are not absence of struggle. They are struggle of another kind. By day, the body is broken. By night, the spirit is tested. The silence, the screams, the dreams, the whispers, all of it presses down, shaping men as surely as the drills and the whip. And when dawn comes, you rise again, because there is no choice. The morning begins, as it always does, with the sound of keys and the slam of iron. The whip cracks against stone, voices bark commands, and men rise from straw with groans that echo like an old song. Already the air is thick with the stink of sweat, of damp straw, of blood crusted from the day before. Already your body aches before you have even stood. You shuffle into the yard, the sand still cool beneath your feet, though you know it will soon scorch. The wooden sword is thrust into your hand, the shield strapped against your arm, and the weight returns like an old enemy. The day has begun. It unfolds as it always does, yet somehow worse. The run begins, bare feet slapping against sand, lungs burning in the morning chill. Men stumble, are whipped, rise again. The drills follow, swords striking posts, shields raised until arms tremble. The trainers circle, correcting with lashes, with shouts, with blows. You spar until your ribs ache, until your skin splits, until blood stains the sand. You eat your porridge, heavy and bland, fuel rather than food. You spar again, harder now, the steel ringing sharper, the wounds deeper. You fight through exhaustion, through pain, through the weight pressing on your chest like iron. The lash waits for hesitation. The chain waits for defiance. The sand drinks blood as easily as sweat. This is the rhythm. This is the day. But today, you notice something different. Not in the drills, not in the food, not in the whip, but in yourself. When you raise the sword, your arm feels heavier than yesterday. When you block a blow, your shield shudders harder than before. When you taste blood in your mouth, it is not strange, not shocking. It is familiar. Too familiar. And you realize, the day is not breaking you suddenly. It is breaking you slowly, piece by piece, until even your own pain feels ordinary. That is the cruelty of the ludus. It does not shatter you all at once. It grinds you down day by day, until you no longer notice you are broken. You see it in the men around you. One fights half-heartedly, his eyes hollow, his movements sluggish. Another whispers to himself between drills, a mantra you cannot understand. A third fights with such fury that you know it is not strength, but desperation, the last spark of spirit burning too fast. The lanista does not need to kill you. The day does it for him. Each dawn strips a little more from you. Each night buries what remains in straw and silence. Until nothing is left but obedience. By afternoon, the sun is merciless. The yard shimmers with heat, sweat stings your eyes, dust clings to your tongue. The trainers shout, the whips crack, the guards watch from the shade. You move like a machine now, body responding without thought, sword rising, shield falling, feet shuffling in rhythm. There is no will left. Only instinct. Only survival. This is how Rome wins. Not in the arena, but here. In the school. By taking men and grinding them into shapes that fight not because they want to, not even because they must, but because they no longer know how not to. The meal comes late, as always. Porridge, beans, bread. You eat without tasting. You chew without thought. The food fills your stomach but not your spirit. The veterans eat slowly, deliberately, their faces expressionless. They know the truth. Food is not nourishment. It is fuel. It is permission to be broken again tomorrow. When the bowls are empty, you rise, heavy, and shuffle back to the yard. The drills resume. The cycle continues. By evening, you are bruised, bleeding, hollow. And yet you stand. Because standing is the only thing left to do. Night falls. You return to the barracks, the straw scratching your skin, the air sour with sweat. Men collapse around you, their groans fading into silence. The torches gutter low, shadows stretching long across the walls. And in that silence the truth settles. Even a single day here is enough to break a man. Not just the body, though the lashes, the drills, the bruises do that well enough. But the spirit. The part of you that once dreamed of freedom, of family, of a name remembered. The part that once whispered prayers with hope, or told stories with pride. The ludus does not need years to destroy it. A day is enough. A day of whips and drills, of porridge and chains, of blood and training and silence in the dark. A day of rising, fighting, bleeding, eating, collapsing, and rising again. A day of realizing that tomorrow will be the same. And so you close your eyes, not in peace, but in surrender. The straw scratches your skin, the chains rattle faintly, the drip of water counts the seconds. Around you, men shift, mutter, weep, whisper. You breathe, slow and shallow, the weight pressing down. And you understand, the greatest cruelty of the ludus is not that it kills men. It is that it makes them live broken long before the arena claims them. Even one day here is enough to teach that truth. And tomorrow, another day will come. And so, as the night settles over the stone walls of the ludus, and the echoes of chains fade into the silence of straw, the story closes not with triumph, not with hope, but with endurance. For this was the life of a gladiator, not glory, but survival. Not freedom, but obedience. Not life, but a slow, unrelenting breaking. And if you drift to sleep now, listening to the ghosts of their breath, perhaps you will carry this truth with you, that behind the roar of the arena lay days like this, days that crushed men into dust, until only the spectacle remained,